The first set of terrorist attacks that happened in this country was, the area affected was Bengal and Assam in 1948 to 1952 almost, when the Revolutionary Communist Party of India, inspired by the success of Mao's PLA in China, a number of countries have played this game on India, this bloody game on India. It became various variant Naxalite attack movement that happened in North Bengal, then it came to South Bengal, it came to today Jharkhand, it came to spread to then Madhya Pradesh, now Chhattisgarh, and there was a nucleus of it from Telangana, part of the then Andhra. Islam to contain the growth of communist Russia, Soviet, and here to create a Christian territory to contain the rise of and spread of the Maoist communism. Radical Islamists got into the act of terrorism. Use of violence as a political resource is an act of terrorism. Some group will come up, kill the people, and then will say, we want to talk. And government used to say, okay, let us come and talk. No, after 2014, we have not held any political talk with any armed group. Surrender, rehabilitation. Our parliament was attacked. Mumbai was attacked. For 52 hours, the whole country kept watching on the TV. And here, currently, is the Popular Front of India. This is a very, very dangerous organization. This is Hydra-headed today. It has more than 16 fronts. You know, there is mask. It will put up mask of human rights. It puts up mask of rehabilitation. It puts up mask of being a student, organization of this student group, union. It takes up the form of a political party. But essentially, its whole aim is to destabilize this country. This is a threat that we need to be very, very careful about. Defending the country from the enemies without and enemies within. Terrorism is something this country has lived with. Anaivarkum Vanakkam. I have the privilege to release this book. Advance copy of it was given to me to familiarize myself with this. And I must say that this is a very, very valuable addition to a scholarly work on terrorism and counterterrorism. The existing oeuvre that we have, it is a very, very valuable addition. General Subrata Mitra was a highly accomplished soldier, highly decorated. Having served in and carried on a wide range of responsibilities, be it on the external front with Pakistan and China, be it in the internal security scenario, the terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir and Northeast. He spent his life defending the country from the enemies without and enemies within. Now, this is something which every soldier in his lifetime does. But General Mitra was more than that. He was not only very intellectually sharp, he was an excellent soldier, but he was also, he had a very inquiring, inquisitive mind, which led him to foray into an area which is usually not very common for, not only for soldiers, but even for any other civil servant. Doing research, getting into the depth of the issue, because what happens is a soldier fights on a day-to-day basis the enemies, and these fights are essentially tactical responses to the threats, which are essentially, at that point, it's a tactical in nature. Neutralizing the modules, neutralizing the terrorist. This is a normal routine which our army has been doing since long, in fact, since the first decade of independence. Indian Army has a very, very rich experience in counter-terrorism and also what is loosely called counter-insurgency. It is nothing but terrorism. But we don't have many scholarly work which goes into the strategic dimension of it. And here, General Mitra stands apart, that besides dealing with the problem, dealing with the threats on a day-to-day basis, he also went deep into understanding the larger causes and unseen consequences of terrorism. So this work that he has produced is a seminal work and a very, very valuable addition to the available literature on counterinsurgency and terrorism. I would like to thank his gracious lady wife, Puspita Mitra, for taking the initiative to see that the work that he had done, it comes out in the form which is available for the posterity to read and benefit. Thank you ma'am very much for that. And of course, the university, Madras University, the guide, the professor who guided him, helped him technically about the technique of research and all, they all deserve credit. Friends, terrorism is something this country has lived with since independence. You know, the first set of terrorist attacks that happened in this country was, the area affected was Bengal and Assam in 1948 to 1952 almost, when the Revolutionary Communist Party of India, inspired by the success of Mao's PLA in China. You know, most of the terrorism, by and large, all the acts of terrorism that we have had in the country, we have faced, these are inspired, instigated, and many a times abated by the foreign sources. A number of countries have played this game on India, this bloody game on India. In 1948, it was the Revolutionary Communist Party of India. A series of killings, high-profile killings, happened in Bengal and Assam. By the time, it didn't have a long shelf-life. It was, our security forces were able to suppress and control them. Then the Nagas in the Naga hills of Northeast, they began. Now what RCPI did, subsequently it started mutating. It became various variant Naxalite attack movement that happened in North Bengal, then it came to South Bengal, it came to today Jharkhand, it came to spread to then Madhya Pradesh, now Chhattisgarh. And there was a nucleus of it from Telangana, part of the then Andhra, and they were waging acts of terrorism in different parts of the country. That was one strain, largely inspired by China. When the Nagas in the Naga Hill district of Assam, they agitated and they took up violence. They resorted to acts of random acts of terrorism. Again, army had to deal with them, and they dealt with them very efficiently. And when sensible Naga leadership, they realized the futility of terrorism, the violence, and they got together, talked with the government of India, and settled the issue, Naga political issue, with the creation of Nagaland state. Nagaland state with a special power under Article 371A of the Indian Constitution. Actually, Nagas never asked for independence. When the British were going to partition this country, and they had decided to create Pakistan in collusion with Muslim League, they wanted to put the entire Northeast India with Pakistan. And that was their design, to club the Northeast India with Pakistan. And there was a strong resistance in the Northeast beyond Bengal. And Nagas had come forward very actively in the protest against merger of Northeast India into Pakistan. And then the only political entity in Naga Hill district, which was the Naga National Council, they passed a resolution in 1946. In April 1946, they passed a resolution that Naga Hill shall be part of India, independent India, with local autonomy. So they never asked for independence. It was only subsequent. The nature of autonomy was something they were talking about. What should be the nature of autonomy? The independence was never on their agenda. But then, in 50s, when India, I'm just giving a geopolitical context. Having worked in this field, I thought it's my obligation to talk about it and give some brief. When India had refused to share the worldview, Anglo-American worldview, and that they didn't like it. US and Britain, they didn't like this. At the time, rise of China, communist China, they were concerned, a spread of communism. Burma was already in turmoil. The Burmese Communist Party was a revolutionary and armed group perpetrating terror in Burma. In that backdrop, when the Nagas settled the issue with the government of India, at that time they instigated. The American and British intelligence agencies, they got together and they instigated the Nagas, those who were not falling in line. Fizo was rescued, taken to Britain by the British intelligence, given British citizenship so that India could not ask for their extradition and all those. And from there they started instigating it. And in their enterprise to create, their whole design was to create an independent. They had the crown colony concept, which they had worked on, but they found it not politically feasible, economically not feasible, so they had dropped it. They wanted to revive it, to create a separate country of the northeast India and upland of Burma. They had called it Crown Colony in the past, but then they started working on it. And then they took the help of American Baptist Church and Anglican Church. It was not something new. British, all through the colonization, they took the help of Anglican Church to promote, to make their empire durable. The British Parliament had passed an act in 1813, what is called India Charter Act 1813. Under that act, the British Parliament made it mandatory for the East India Company that for what they said, religious and moral redemption of India. They thought that other than gospel there is no religion, it was all darkness. So they have to be evangelized, they have to be brought to the gospel. So that was here there was a convergence of state power and the power of the Anglican Church. And after the British left India, again there was a convergence of interest, and when the Naga insurgency started dwindling down, Fizo was taken to Britain, given British citizenship, and then they got into it. They wanted to to contain communism, they wanted to create a territory which would be Christian territory. To contain, because communism was a very strong idea. They tried the same thing on the Western Front. When Russian moved into Afghanistan, they tried to encourage radical Islam. Islam to contain the growth of communist Russia, Soviet, and here to create a Christian territory to contain the rise of and spread of the Maoist communism. And then this area went up in violence. The violence has spread to Mizoram, Lusai Hills, Manipur. Those who were loyalists of Maharaja, they were not happy with the merger of Manipur. The China started hosting them. Pakistan started colluding them. Bangladesh was liberated with our blood and sweat, but soon Mujib died, and Bangladesh again became, the power went back to those guys, those who were pro-Pakistan elements. So then it started, Assam, Ulfa started, then everyone started. It was a free-for-all. In 80s, Khalistan, Bangladesh, liberation of Bangladesh was not liked by the Americans, was certainly a very, 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 very painful sore for the Pakistanis. They wanted to seek revenge. And they got into the act of encouraging this, all kinds of, and including Khalistan. So the Khalistan thing started erupting. So 80s we found entire northeast up, Khalistan and Maoist in a significant part of the country. Terrorism all over. Later, by the end of 1980s, Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir. Subsequently, others also joined. Radical Islamists got into the act of terrorism. And this country has been battling with this menace all these years. When I joined the security establishment in the government of India in 1990, it had become a new normal to accept it as if it is a part of our life. People in the government, civil and military both, their assumption was that this is problem that India has to live with. We have to manage it. It is near impossible to resolve it because problem was so complex. I had a different view. I used to feel very upset over this attitude, that how could we have such an attitude that yes, terrorism, because there is no people, we have started, in fact, also in this all through the period, our counter-terrorism model was essentially British model, with what they did in Malaysia. We did not develop our own lexicon. We did not develop our own strategy. What British did in Malaysia, that was the model that became our model that we started working in our areas. As a result, we call militants, we call insurgents, we call terrorists. They are all terrorists. Use of violence as a political resource is an act of terrorism. There shouldn't be any confusion about it. Whether it is a Maoist, whether it is a Kashmir, whether it is a Northeast, any entity in this country uses violence as a political resource, it is an act of terrorism. It is to overawe the state and demoralize the population. This is terrorism, as simple as that. But we kept behind the finer, as the British and American scholars started insurgency, militancy, terrorism, as if there are different. No, there is no difference at all. They are one and the same. They are different faces of one and the same threat. So let us not have a confusion. The problem was we didn't. It was perhaps lack of our security scholarship that we did not differentiate, did not look into it. We kept borrowing. Global war on terror. After American was attacked, everyone started talking about terrorism. No, we have been dealing with it all through. Now, what is the present scenario? In the present scenario, the government, after Prime Minister came in 2014, certain basic decisions were taken. Number one, zero tolerance to use of violence as a political resource. We will not tolerate it. No political negotiation with anyone who uses violence as an instrument of politics. No. Earlier days, some group will come up, kill the people, and then will say, we want to talk. And government used to say, okay, let us come and talk. We have seen very, very embarrassing situations when some gangs of people, the terrorists, having killed hundreds and hundreds of people, suddenly they would come and say, okay, now we will have a talk with you. So they will come and they will be garlanded with gamocha and garland and brought into as if they are now gentlemen. This used to happen. No, after 2014, we have not held any political talk with any armed group. Surrender, rehabilitation. That's all. Subject to you are not having committed a heinous crime. The policy is very clear. Zero tolerance to violence as a political resource. Second, terrorism is no longer a low-cost option. Earlier, our parliament was attacked. Imagine, our parliament, the most sacred institution of democracy in this country, was attacked. Thanks to our security force personnel, the parliament was in session. The whole leadership was there. And these terrorists barged into. Thanks to the security forces, they neutralized them. Otherwise, it would have been disastrous. But then, what did we do? We did some movement. We did feel angry, but there was no response. 2008, 26/11 happened. Mumbai was attacked. For 52 hours, the whole country kept watching on the TV a handful, less than 10 terrorists coming and humiliating this whole great nation. But what was the response? Within less than a year, our leadership went, had a meeting with Pakistan leadership, and Sharm el-Sheikh we signed an agreement, a kind of a joint statement, where we said both countries are victims of terrorism. I mean, now compare it with Pulwama. Pulwama happened. We lost some Jawans, but we hit them back, right inside, in the belly, nearly 250 kilometers inside. When some terrorists in Manipur, they killed 14 of our soldiers, we hit them back in Myanmar. Surgical strike. Terrorism is no longer a low-cost option. If you do it, you will get it. And the message has gone well. For last several years, the country is witnessing a peaceful environment. Northeast is absolutely peaceful. There was a time, 10 years, 12 years back, we used to lose 2,000 people every year, 300 to 400 security force personnel. We have lost many of our Jawan, many of our soldiers, many of our officers. Today, nothing. Everyone talking about development, peace, everything fine. Because the first terrorist attack that happened in 2014 after this government came was in November 2014 when about almost 70 Adivasis were butchered by some terrorists. It's okay, we'll chase them, we'll get them. Let us see where they are. No question of talk. Many people have started, let us call them, you know. Zero tolerance, we will deal with them, neutralize them to the last man. And terrorism is not a low-cost option. We will make those who perpetrate terror, we will make them pay for it. We didn't talk to Pakistan all these years. There were so many votaries, so many people have started talking about, why not let us talk? No. What is there to talk? And the message has gone down. Article 370, unnecessary, creating the source of all problem in Jammu and Kashmir, abolished. Surgical strike on the land, surgical strike in the politico-administrative arrangement. Kashmir today, this year, it has the largest ever number of tourists. Never before, even pre-insurgency time, there were never so many tourists who have gone over there. The country with a resolve is dealing with it. And I'm sure, with this determination, with this clarity, and with this strategic vision, when we are moving forward, there will be problems. When we are celebrating the 75 years of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and we have entered the 25 years, next 25, the quarter century of Amrit Kal, to take India to the world leadership, there will be problem. There are adversaries. They will try to create a problem with it. And the next problem that we are likely to face is essentially in terms of civil unrest. And here, there will be some other attempts, but mostly it will be civil unrest. They will try to create instability, disrupt the social harmony. And here, currently, is the Popular Front of India. This is a very, very dangerous organization. This is Hydra-headed today. It has more than 16 fronts. You know, there is mask. It will put up mask of human rights. It puts up mask of rehabilitation. It puts up mask of being a student, organization of this student group, union. It takes up the form of a political party. But essentially, its whole aim is to destabilize this country from within. And they are the one who have been at the front of sending these fighters to Afghanistan, fighters to Iraq and Syria. They were all PFI people. Today, They put up and unfortunately there are some political parties also who are now supporting them for their own political vested interest. This is a threat that we need to be very, very careful about. The country is capable of dealing with them. If they try to distract the attention of the government from the target, they are mistaken. They will be disappointed. They will be dealt with. The Indian Army, Indian security forces are capable of dealing with them. We have dealt with them all these years, but now we are dealing with them with a clear vision, clear strategy of zero tolerance and making it far more expensive, costly for those who will perpetrate act of terror. Friends, in this domain, the work of General Subrata Mitra is very, very helpful. And I suggest, as General Arun said, that people of varied interest should read it. It's a good book. I'm sure when you have read it, you will not be disappointed. I was not disappointed. It will be very enriching. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless all of you. Thank you. Vanakkam.